So, um, I'm going to introduce one of my very best friends that has the biggest heart and the shiniest light. And I met Joanne a long time ago when her child was the size of little Ava. And talking to Ava today, she says, "You taught my dad?" Yes, and he was even littler than you, so that was kind of cool. So Joanne and I have been on this journey a long time, Joanne, so I am beyond blessed to be part of your life. Thank you. And so, as we have Joanne, Reverend Joanne Boruck.
Thank you, my precious Carmen. I'm so glad you're home.
Me too. My kids all said, "Is Annie coming home?"
Aw.
I will admit there was parts of me that said, "No."
Okay, I'm going to shut off Carmen. Find my talk. Boy, I have so much to say. I hope we get out of here by 4 at least. And I have to tell you, it was really a challenge to start writing. And if any of you have ever tried to write, or you're writing your biography or something, it just starts. I have a thing at the top that says, start with one thing you know for sure. And so I know for sure today that the greatest light is in this room today. We have people going and people coming. Dustin, it's our last Sunday. He's going back to Ontario. So thank you, Dustin. We have a couple of new people. Contessa and Sydney, welcome. And they're from Stettler. And Carmen's back from Africa. And Pearl's back. Boy, I know it. When I look out, I see, you might look around if it's your first time and think it's quite a low, there's quite a low attendance. But truly, we have, if everybody came, we'd fill the seats. 20 different people come every Sunday. And I'm on this conference call once a month with other ministers. And they said people that used to come to church once a week come once a month. And I was not discouraged because that means we are enlightened. We have within us the power to make the changes in our world. So, good morning. Look at my beautiful bear that Gord bought me from the powwow yesterday. That's my spirit animal. So I think I'm just going to put him over here and have him look at me and protect me while I'm up here. I have to put this down because I have to tell you that my real name is Joanne, Faith, Peace, and Love Boruck. And I welcome you near and far to Center for Spiritual Living Red Deer. This is a place of infinite possibilities, including the infinite spirit, the infinite mind, and of course, the infinite body. And it is our pleasure to be here. How else could we experience that mind-body connection except through pleasure? This is your home. This is your kingdom. This is your home. This is your kingdom. And I invite you now to experience the pleasure of allowing your eyes to gently close and go deep within. Open the doors of your heart and step in. This morning I'm speaking to your heart center. And it is my intention to awaken your truth that starts with an idea or a thought, and to open all of us in consciousness. As I speak these words, I know I need to hear them, and so does someone else. Let us begin with a deep collective breath into our heart center. And just for this moment, bring into your mind a beautiful flower. This is the time of beautiful flowers. And they're bursting forth, releasing their beauty, their smell. I just came back from Victoria, Sydney, so I experienced a lot of roses. Right now around here, there's tulips. All the baskets people picked up at the stores and the markets. Every one of those flowers is as unique and beautiful as you are. This is your perfect place. And with each breath, you open a little more, like a beautiful, delicate flower. And now we're ready for our opening affirmative prayer. I know God is universal spirit, life essence of all that is, an intelligent power which permeates all things and in each individual is conscious mind. I know that we as humans are the direct representative of the divine presence on the earth at this time. We are always in direct communication with Spirit. We are here to experience pleasure as a divine being. The good in your life is brought about by the power of your own mind. This morning we access the body first by opening our mind to the spirit within. Body is a manifestation of thoughts and beliefs. With gratitude for this center, this wisdom, the pleasure to be here, to those who walk the conscious path with us, I say thank you. I release my words, and it is working in mind, body, and spirit. It is already done. And together we say, and so it is. In this quiet time, with an open heart, we send our love and affirmative thoughts to all those who need to know their own truth of health, love, and light. Today I pray for Susan and Gary. Okay. Good morning again. Do you know everybody here is here by divine appointment? You didn't even know it was in your appointment book because it was in here and something inside you said, this is the day I need to be around like-minded people. I've made an appointment with myself, and so thank you for coming here. Because this week we're going to discover how experiencing pleasure can uplift us and shift our thoughts into this community experience. And first, I want to expand on something I talked about last week, about community care. This whole month, we're talking about self-care and different aspects of it. And last week, it was about community care and the evolution of self-care. And I don't think I talked enough about it. And I want to tell you that when I was writing it, one of the aspects of community care is, how can I take care of myself in a way that benefits my community? What can I do for my community that benefits me? So for me, I've been wanting to have a drum circle for a while, and I kept texting Janet. Janet, why don't you have a drum circle at the center? And then Reverend Gail says to me, I said to her, I'm waiting for Janet. She goes, what? Why are you waiting for somebody else? So last Sunday, I got up here and I said, I decided part of community care, I'm having a drumming circle. I looked on the calendar. I couldn't have it the solstice. It was booked. I'm going to have a drumming circle the day before, which was exactly right, because the solstice was the next morning at 9 a.m. So if we'd have waited till the 21st, we would have missed it. And we didn't have a great, huge circle, but wow, the energy was amazing. So that's one thing I really wanted to promote again. The community needs you. Like Carmen said. What was that word you said? Champions. I love that. boy, imagine if every organization had one of us in it. They wouldn't know what hit them. Even working bingo, people say, gosh, you guys smile a lot. And so I really want to emphasize that and challenge you. As part of community care, what can you do for yourself that benefits your community? So this week, we're talking about pleasure as self-care. And it was pretty hard for me to keep it on the PG, let me tell you. And then it really woke me up to how narrow-minded I can be when I get stuck on a word. So I researched that word, pleasure. Look at those two over there. What a pleasure to see that love. Oh. So I looked up the word pleasure, and it's derived from a word pleasant. If you're pleasant, you experience pleasure. And if you're not pleasant, you don't experience pleasure. So in body, mind, and spirit, if you're not feeling pleasure, you have to look at the root word of that, which is pleasant. And the first thing that came to mind was this workshop. I used to work at crop insurance, and so we had to work with clients, and they used to make us take these courses on how to be pleasant. We had to put this mirror in front of us, and the phone rang, you put on a smile, and you had to be, oh yeah, see, anybody who's worked with the public knows how those trainings. You look in the mirror and you smile, and then you become pleasant. And you know what happened when we looked in the mirror? That came through on the phone. They could feel it in our context. They could hear it in our voice. And as I was researching pleasant, I came across this thing, and I don't even say who wrote it. Oh, Sandguru, Sandhguru. He talks about pleasant. It was really interesting. He says, if you become pleasant in your body, we call that health. If you become very pleasant in your body, we call that pleasure. If your mind becomes pleasant, we call it peace. If your mind becomes very pleasant, we call it joy. If your emotions become pleasant, we call it love. If it becomes very pleasant, we call it compassion. If your life energy becomes pleasant, we call it bliss. But if it becomes very pleasant, we call it ecstasy. If your surroundings become pleasant, we call it success. And I'm going to print that out, put it on my wall, because it really brought to mind what being pleasant can do and what experiencing the pleasure of being present can take us one step higher. And it really talked to me about gratitude. When I was talking about we had to look in this mirror and being present, it really brought something into my mind. I always think gratitude is the root of everything. Gratitude for love, gratitude for friends. And I remember when we were taking this smiley mirror work, it said, when somebody says to you, thank you, don't say you're welcome. The greatest gift you can give them is to say, it was my pleasure. And so I've carried that with me a long time, and I often say that when somebody says thank you, I say, it was my pleasure. And Dr. Mark Waldman, he has done a lot of research on the body-mind connection, how our brain reacts when we're meditating. And one of these things, he says, the word pleasure has the same synapses. Well, some of us know that body-mind thing. But it has the same synapses in your brain that brings great joy. It releases an endorphin. So just experiencing, it was a pleasure to do that for you. You get a boost of happiness, endorphin, and so does a person you say it to. And probably so does somebody in your atmosphere get that. And so, I know there's lots of things in our life that bring us pleasure. Right now, I'd like to ask Gord to come up. I like to ask people, what do you think about pleasure? And he had a really good analogy of what pleasure was. I can bring the mic over there. Gord, are you okay? Okay, because I really want you to be on camera.
So, as a younger person, what I did have the pleasure of doing was coaching minor league ball. And it started out as just a bit of a whim. And then it became 8 years worth of coaching those young people. It was so much fun to go from getting them to hit the first ball they'd ever hit to, shut up, coach, there's girls on the field. Got nothing to say to me now. But what a wonderful experience. And it led me to so much pleasure. I am glad I was able to be given the opportunity to work with so many young people. And that led to so many gifts. And each and every one of you, I want to thank you for the light that you share and the pleasure that you bring, not only to yourself, but to the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Gord. And the reason I wanted him to tell you that was because that really goes with everything I talked about. Community care, being pleasant. And what really came to me when I was talking to Gord about it? Many years ago was that, Gord? 30 years ago. If you do something with pleasure, it never goes away. It stays with you forever and ever. And when I want to go back to Dr. Mark Waldman for a little bit and how he talks about that mind synapses. And I want to tell you that I was talking to my son, Gary, and he was talking to me about the power of the mind. Can you believe it? And he was in a vehicle accident, and he has some residual effects from that in his brain. And so he's been really researching the brain and how it heals and how it interacts. And he phones me, goes, Mom, guess what? I said, what? There's brain cells in your heart. I said, I know, I probably told you that 20 years ago. But it never registered with him until he researched it, and he realized that healing his brain started in his heart. It started with forgiving all those people involved in that accident. That's where his healing will come from. He called it heart math. And I was just so blown away for him to phone and tell me that he discovered this great thing. And he just turned 50, so there's hope for everybody. And so I want you to just for a minute close your eyes. And just recall the last time you really experienced a lot of joy. So much love, gratitude, laughter, and peace. They are the path to pleasure. And now I invite you, if you can, to complete this statement around your social life. It is such a pleasure to, and you complete that. And that really brings into your DNA, into your mind, the pleasure of socializing. And now think of some chore you might not have liked doing this morning or yesterday. And bring to mind, it was such a pleasure to. And I used vacuuming because it doesn't bring me pleasure, but it does now. And then bring your thought to your self-care. What was the last thing you did that really emphasized self-care? It brought me so much pleasure to I promise I won't make you say it out loud. Just thinking that word pleasure instills a sense of well-being in you. And I have to tell you, I keep looking down here. I'm not really reading my words. You know what? When we write a talk, and Carmen will probably tell you that, anybody who's taken a class, most of it's channeled. I burn some Nang Champa, I light a candle, or whatever brings me into that space. And all these thoughts just fly through me, so I write them down. And then I get here and I think, oh, I don't want to miss anything. So I want you to know that all of this came from somebody else, not from me. So pleasure. Ernest Holmes, I put on my weekly quote, within us is an unborn possibility of limitless experience, and it is our privilege to give birth to it. You know, privilege is something I talked about last week too, because I was thinking of all the things you need to do to take care of yourself and how sometimes you get stuck on the negative of it. Oh, I have to do this, or I can't go here because I've got that responsibility. But the minute I changed my mind and said, what a privilege it is to have to take care of this person or this responsibility. And what a privilege it is that somebody depended on me. As soon as I changed what I had to do to what I choose to do, what I get to do, what's a privilege to do, it became light as a feather, happened in an instant, and before I knew it, I was on my way to something else. Ernest Holmes, it's our privilege to give birth to limitless experience. So pleasure in mind, body, and spirit. This is a new way to look at life, and it's the right time. It's a perfect time. We don't hear that word pleasure very often in our world right now. And I challenge you to find something today that brings you pleasure. For sure, for me, it's a pleasure to be here with you. It's such a pleasure to have my granddaughter Charlotte here. She's never been before. What can I get you, Charlotte? You wanted to see me talking? Do you want to come and sit up here with Carmen for a minute? Okay, you come up here. Maybe today what you can do is find pleasure outside. Spend a few moments looking at your surroundings. The next tree you see, does it want a hug? Maybe that tree wants a hug. If you decide to go for a walk, when you go for a walk, are you power walking or are you walking with intention? Maybe you can do both. I can't. When I'm walking with intention, it's like a saunter. So the next time you take a walk, don't have a destination in mind. I'm going for a walk anywhere, just for the pleasure of it. And just let your mind explore the senses of the trees and the green and the smells and even the sound of the horns. It's such a pleasure to wake up those five senses. All the big things and the small things and the people you come in contact with you. Find pleasure in them. And this, my fellow spiritual beings, is our quest today. So I'd like you to repeat this affirmation with me. It is my joy and pleasure to live another wonderful day. It is my joy and pleasure to live another wonderful day. And now that I've got a captive audience, I would ask you all as well to hold my son Gary. And my eyes are leaking, I can't stop it. And my sister Susan. And if you could just hold whatever is for their greatest and highest good is unfolding, I feel a huge privilege that they gave me permission to share their truth. Gary is experiencing some tremors from his brain injury that may impact his job. And my sister Susan was diagnosed, whether it's true or not, with stage 4 cancer in many organs. Was never sick a day in her life, didn't even take aspirins. So Whatever's unfolding is for her greatest and highest good. And I just ask you to hold that truth and also to hold me in your thoughts as we walk this path together. And so, I am Reverend Joanne Faith. Peace and love to all of you. It was a privilege to be here today. And now I'd like to invite Adrian and Braylon to come up because they're going to bring so much joy after my little sad story. Thank you so much. Thanks, Adrian. You might have to grab that.
Thank you, Reverend Joanne. Now, let us all read the prosperity affirmation together. All good is mine today. This is my belief, and in it I stand firm. I am healthy, prosperous, loving, and wise. The spirit is willing, and I am willing. I breathe deeply, give freely, and receive greatly. My life itself is a gift for which I am truly thankful, and so it is. Now, Edith and our beautiful band over here is going to perform one song.